Unit 10, the future. All right, this is probably the last video. It's our last Thursday, Friday of the year. I promised myself I was gonna cry. But this is part assignment, part kind of farewell, part kind of pep talk for the future, part summation activity. Glad I said part, not halves. All right, anywho. Here's the plan. I know it's kind of a year in review. Unit 10. 1 is we want to think about what have we learned this year. Yeah, I don't know either, but I guess that you can maybe come up with a few things. I'm going to ask you to kind of brainstorm a list, and there'll be an assignment for that. That's just kind of get you going. And then 2, it's what's important going forward. All right. So in the future, whether the future be lunchtime, dinner time, tomorrow, next week, this summer, next school year, when you're 30, in 3,000 years, there's going to be change. There's always change. The planet's changing. Animals are changing. Things are dying. New technology is being made. Different relationships are being built. So change is a constant. It may be slow, but it's there. It's always kind of working. And 2, the more complex things become, the more fragile they are. This is something that I've said before, but it's probably my fault. I didn't emphasize it enough in class. As complexity increases, fragility increases. To think of it one way, like I'm a dad. I have 2 kids. I will always love them. It's a really basic metric. Like, those 2 stinking brats can do whatever they want. I'm always going to love them. They're always going to be my children. It's a really small network. Like, there's 3 people involved. It works really well. It's not complex. It's very strong. Making that a little bit bigger, like, I have 150 students. Actually, I think technically I have 138, but that's not important. I will always love you guys. It doesn't matter really what you do. I mean, I suppose I would be really mad if you egged my car or something, but I get it. You're kids. You're gonna be a kid, and you guys always have a special place in my heart. So that's a little bit bigger. But I suppose, if you caught me in a back alley and beat me up, I would have a little bit less love. It's a little bit less secure than for my own 2 biological children. The realm of possibilities that you guys could destroy that is a little bit higher. Now project that out to the relationship between all the people on the planet. I mean, I happen to think that I'm kind of a loving, kind of hippie guy, so I have more than other people, but that may or may not be true. I don't necessarily know if I love all 8 billion people on the planet. I like to say that I do, but I don't actually think that I do. I mean, so that breaks down. And we're in the middle of something really important with a breakdown of relations between people of different races and being treated unfairly. I think that's kind of playing out. Is that the relationship in a small unit, very secure. And a relationship in a slightly larger unit, still secure, a little bit less. But one that gets really, really big, it becomes really, really, really fragile. Things could go at any moment. And that's, I'm kind of babbling at this point, but if you think about the hunters and gatherers, which I like to go back to, small unit, 30 to 50 people, all knew each other, probably a lot of them are related, very tight group. When you go to cities, a couple hundred, couple thousand, 10,000, couple 10,000s, you don't know everybody, but it's still your city. It's easier to maintain. But they did break down. Not every city that was ever made is still around. When you get to countries and empires, now you're talking hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions of people, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. In today's world, billions of people. Much harder to control and to keep going. I mean, China is 1.2 billion people. Maybe it's 1.3. I always forget. I know India is really close to catching them. Like, they're trying really, I mean, they have to use really strict measures to keep people from rebelling and changing their system. Like, they're taking away rights from the people who live in Hong Kong because it's a little bit different. The bigger you get, the more fragile it is. So, my question to you is, what does the future hold? What's gonna happen? I don't know. And normally when I ask this question, I always get like flying cars or like, we're gonna go to the moon and live on Mars. But like, I just kind of thinking like this year's a little bit different. So maybe we want to break this down to what's going to happen next year. What's going to happen in 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, a million years. I'm like, really, the thing is yours, but really put some thought into this and focus on the concept of things are going to change. And how do we maintain things that become more complex? How do we support that fragility? Now, let me see what I wrote down. What will change, and how do we keep it from falling apart when we do change it? 100 years ago, cars were just starting to become a thing. Literally, 1919, or actually I suppose it's 2020, so 1920. So by 1920, you've got about 12 years of mass-producing cars. And one of the Goldilocks conditions for having cars was that there was cheap gasoline. We had, in 1901, I think it was actually 1900, we found Spindletop in Texas, and there was this massive oil reserve, and we had all this oil. We had all the oil we could use. And that's kind of what fueled cars, because cars needed cheap gasoline to make them run, make the internal combustion engine. Well, it worked great for 50 years until we started to run out of oil. It's a really complex system Think of the United States highway system and all the cars in a road and what needs to be involved to keep that going. Well, it worked great until it didn't. And then gasoline got a little bit more expensive. And that's changing, that's fueling this change in electric or hybrid cars. But where do we get the energy for that? How do we build those? How do we change the factories? This is all really complicated, which makes it all really fragile. So, I've been rambling on for a little bit too long, but at the end of the day, I think we really want to think about three things. One, what did we learn this year? And how does that connect to everything else? Two, what is going to change? And how is it going to change? And three, how do we maintain that change? Because things usually don't get simpler. Things get harder. Hey, welcome to life, kids. I mean, you're 13 now, most of you. I mean, I'm 12. But stuff almost never gets simpler. It's always getting more complex. And I think as people, as individuals and as members of society, the global society, in addition to your state, we need to think about how we can support and protect the fragility of the complexity of our lives. So I'll write this all down, but I don't know. I'm really looking forward to see your answers. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.